Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the actual, real, physical tiny room again. I am the host of Michael and Benjamin's physical podcast. I'm the one called Michael, and I am joined physically back in the tiny room by the man who has been called the Aquaman of Irish. He is to Irish podcasting what Aquaman is to DC. What I'm saying is, he's the last great hope of turning Irish podcasting around and saving the day. It's Ben!
Aww, did I get a nice intro because I'm back?
Yeah.
Aww.
I'm only mean when you're not here.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're here.
Michael is, of course, pressing the issue of an actual physical tiny room because I'm actually here. I'm no longer in Italy.
Yeah.
Soaking up some rays. It's actually a lie. Ben is still in Italy, and I'm a 3D printed copy, AI modelled, brought to life Robo Ben.
That would be amazing. A kind of a Blade Runner type situation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a replicant.
But without the increased strength.
Yeah, if anything, it's decreased. If anything, I am a weaker version of Ben, which is quite weak.
Yeah. Ben, do the theme music.
Theme music for the podcast. We don't actually have any theme music, but I hope someone will mix them up for us. I don't wanna name any names. Rachel, I hope it's Rachel.
Yeah, very good. Still funny. Good. Ben, it's been a bit of a week.
Yeah, stuff's been happening.
I mean, my personal life aside, which has been quite hectic, I don't know what has happened, Ben, in the world of cinema. But for some reason, in Ireland here, as we being in Ireland, I don't know what bizarre set of occurrences has happened, but it's resulted in us being bombarded with the kind of three summer movie. The three, we're in Australia, damn it.
Australia. Summer blockbusters all round.
We're getting the three winter blockbusters in the same week.
Just
very good Transformers.
It's the human equivalent of the trailer ad music. The wow.
Oh, the Chris Norton. That's not his name.
Chris
Interstellar music.
Yeah, it's the internet. Wow.
Who directed Chris Norton?
That's a Chris Nolan.
Chris Nolan.
Chris Nolan.
I went to school with Chris Norton.
Chris Norton. Hi, Chris. If you're listening, how's the film career going? Probably not as well as that Nolan chap's, but so be it.
But Ben, I don't know if these films are on wide release worldwide, but we have Into the Spider. I might start this again.
Michael's had a hectic week, ladies and gentlemen. He's a bit sleep deprived.
Yeah, it's been a bit rough.
He's very excited to have me back. There were tears. He'll deny it now on the podcast, but there were tears.
Ben, we've had Into the Spider-Verse, which is actually surprisingly hard to say quickly. We've had, what was the other one? Aquaman. And we've had Bumblebee, the movie, all released in but the space of a week.
Which is a hefty blockbuster / superhero furore that we've been tossed into.
It is incredible. And I think, I don't know, I think the Bumblebee's not supposed to be out.
Oh,
but
so
it's
how
out.
did that happen?
I don't know. I don't know if the UK cinemas have gone rogue.
They get odd times for things.
It is. It's a bizarre thing. After a couple of months of really nothing to watch, then we had to decide between Spider-Man, Bumblebee, and Aquaman.
Well, Michael, some of us didn't decide. Some of us went to all of them.
Yeah,
and
then I haven't seen Bumblebee.
Ben hasn't seen any of them. In classic podcast fashion, you actually tell me not to go to things now so you can make fun of me on the podcast.
It'd ruin the bit.
It'd ruin the bit if I actually saw stuff.
Benjamin.
Yes.
Before we talk about any of that, though,
yes,
we did our traditional weekly comic book roundup.
We did.
And in this week's weekly comic book roundup, first of all, I said that the Magic Order, the Mark Millar, Olivier Copiel Netflix comic book, has turned out surprisingly good.
Yes, it has turned out surprisingly good. This for me, full spoilers for the Magic Order number 5 coming up. Bloody...
Not this, though. This is a bag of Mickeys.
Yeah, that's the Avengers. Not an actual bag of Mickeys.
No.
Remember, it's not a visual medium. You can't make a joke like that and then hold up a comic book, Michael. But generally speaking, the Magic Order was classic Mark Millar territory this week, I felt. A big... what a twist.
What a twist.
What a twist. Which doesn't make any sense so far in the thing. full spoilers from this point on. So if
we're
you
doing
don't want
spoilers already. Okay,
are we not going to do spoilers for Magic Order?
Hold on, just
It turns out it's bloody Gabriel is the assassin all along. Mega powerful wizard of the family. Gabriel has been the one.
He was the bad egg.
He's a real bad egg.
Ben, I, to be honest, wasn't that shocked by the twist because I didn't know who he was. We haven't plugged the computer in, Ben. Would you do that there?
I should probably do that. You keep talking, Michael, in a wonderful fashion.
Ben, I find in a realistic type comic book, a comic book which is kind of artistically drawn rather than a kind of cartoonish or exaggerated one, I often find it hard. There you go, good man. I often find it hard to tell characters apart.
Yes, especially if someone, perhaps Olivier Copiel, has a style that's occasionally, and not to disparage his work, is occasionally a little bit generic. His work is phenomenally good. His faces can be samey.
Yeah,
he has a face formula.
But you could also argue, Ben, that he is drawing brothers.
You could also argue that
they should be kind of similar.
They should be kind of similar, and that's a very convenient excuse for someone who doesn't vary their face as much.
As opposed to the likes of a Ryan Otley or a Mike Mignola, who I can always tell characters apart.
Ryan Otley is a huge fan of playing with proportions, and the secret to any good face, Michael, is playing around with the proportions. You give some characters a big old nose, you give some characters a high hairline, you give some characters some Mickey Mouse ears, and sometimes, if God is being particularly crude, you give Ben's a large nose that people can instantly parody.
I can't see it, Ben. It's behind the...
There you go. Side profile nose makes me look like a crow. Mike Mignola is very much the same. Very simplistic style, you'll find, which could easily fall into murky generic territory. But because he's such a master of proportion and warping them, you get some interesting, intricate characters.
So Ben, speaking of Mike Mignola,
smooth as
what
butter.
a segue. I read the comic book of the Hellboy, the Christmas special.
So
remember last year we had Krampusnacht.
Yeah, Krampusnacht. Well, interestingly, Michael, this is not the Christmas special of Hellboy.
No.
This is the winter special, following in a 3-issue special that has come out since 2016. Because everybody loves Hellboy.
And Ben,
loves Hellboy.
I really enjoyed it, Ben.
It was very good.
But I didn't really know what was going on.
It's a tough one to keep up with.
So you tell me.
So, first of all, there are 4 mini stories in the overall thing. The first one is Happy New Year, or is it by Ava Gallucci? No, Happy New Year, Ava Gallucci is the name of it. It's a kind of a throwback to the old Victorian horror stories of Edgar Allan Poe.
Possession.
Where you messed around with a little bit of spiritualism, you did all that, and one of the primary characters, this is back when Hellboy was still alive, because as we know from our previous episode, Hellboy is finito.
Yeah, he's dead now.
So what Dark Horse is doing, just to get some leverage out of all that, is they're just bringing him back in his previous... See, the wonderful thing about Hellboy is he came to fruition in 1945. He came into existence. So they have that whole back catalogue of years and mystery stories to do.
They can fill in.
And one of the quick ways that they always mark Hellboy out as pre-death Hellboy is they stick him in a BPRD t-shirt. With the famous hand holding a sword. It's an excellent, excellent little throwback. And Madame Zorna is the main... I don't suppose she is the main antagonist. Madame Zorna is a thorn in Hellboy's side from one of his early collections, where she offers to give her spiritualism services to rich people, but it's always in favor of getting something that she wants out of the demon she's summoning, so she often sacrifices people to do that. She escaped Hellboy's wrath once before,
right?
And she's never directly responsible. She's a real slippery customer, and she has plausible deniability whenever she does something like this. But anyway,
she's a George Bush of...
Exactly.
Podcasting.
Where the world forgets that he's a horrible person just because he slips Michelle Obama some candy at his father's funeral. And everyone goes, "Aw, George." Bet Iraq didn't say that. But anyway. Sorry, that got extremely political for no reason whatsoever. But.
Go on.
But.
Go on.
It's a classic kind of comeuppance story from the Victorian era where you don't mess with things you shouldn't mess with. They want to conjure up an old occultist. And he had an imp as a familiar. The imp took the form of a toad. It all goes upside down, topsy-turvy. And poor old Madame Zorna gets dragged off to hell in the form of a frog. I won't spoil it for you. It's fun to read. It's a great little... No, not really. Not really. All right. Read through it for the nice tension, the lovely artwork. The artwork's quite nice. The artwork was done by Ben Stenbeck. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And Dave Stewart coloured it. And we love it when Dave Stewart colours things. He's got a real vivid palette.
Dave Stewart from Eurythmics.
Dave Stewart, not from Eurythmics. from comic book fame.
Okay.
So there you go. There's the classic one of that one. And the second one, Michael, is probably more interesting for long-term Hellboy fans.
Right, go on.
So, Michael, you and I have discussed Hellboy before, and we mentioned that he used to be part of the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense, BPRD.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that the movies of the Hellboy movies didn't do very well is they very much link Hellboy and the BPRD together. They are inseparable.
Go on.
Okay, and everybody is entangled. You know, Hellboy loves Liz Sherman and blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that happens in the comic. The separation between the BPRD and Hellboy came much earlier in the comics than it did in the movie. The movie took 2 movies. At the end of the second movie, he leaves
does he?
the BPRD. Yeah. And Liz comes with him and Abe comes with him. That does not happen in the comics. Right. Hellboy leaves and everybody else stays in the BPRD. Abe Sapien is not actually that big in the standalone Hellboy series. He was a friend. He still is a friend, but they rarely come back and fight together. However, BPRD was where Abe Sapien became his own character, and the BPRD follows that occult agency in different things. It's a great little anthology series with the main storyline running through. You get some really interesting stories. You would probably enjoy it a lot more than Hellboy.
Oh, really?
Hellboy has all my favorite mythological throwbacks.
Right.
But the BPRD really deals with cosmic horror and
like cosmic horror,
dimension hopping, and
get out of that dimension.
Body horror. There's some classic stuff going on here. So this one features around 3 sisters from Slavic folklore. You can see them in lots of different Slavic folklore. They're nature spirits that guard the forests. It's a little bit difficult for non-Hellboy fans to jump into. This is not an introductory story because the person that kind of drives the plot here is a man called Simon Anders.
Yeah, who's that?
Who appears out of nowhere at the end. So, Simon Anders, I had to do a bit of research on this because I'm not the biggest BPRD fan. I am now, having read these 3 volumes, which I bought perfectly legally and perused. I learned Italian, how to read Italian. I went to an Italian comic book shop and read them all. That's definitely true. Don't look it up. So, Simon Anders was a BPRD agent that joined the agency in 1947. So, the wonderful thing about the BPRD files is Hellboy is a child, so it gives you, it's kind of like an origin story, but he's a side note, he's a footnote. So basically the way Mignola chooses to tell these stories is, it's written by Mike Mignola, by the way. The way he chooses to tell these stories is he focuses on the main action of the agency, and then occasionally we glance back to Hellboy growing up and things that might have formed his opinion. Okay? It's easy to follow because usually their volumes are done by number. So 1947 is the name of one volume, 1948 is the next one, and then the last one featuring Simon Anders is Vampire. So it's an interesting series. Simon,
he's a vampire.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. He's not really a vampire anymore. It's interesting. So, Simon Anders is a kind of a fan favorite, as it turns out, among BPRD fans. He was a soldier who was stranded at sea for 27 days. And when Professor, I'm going to get the name wrong because I always get it wrong.
Professor Robotnik.
Brutenholm, who is the father of Hellboy, the adopted father of Hellboy, is setting up his agency in 1947. He seeks out men who have been through kind of horrific ordeals or have a stronger than usual stamina for the unusual. Obviously because he's founding a paranormal agency. Yeah. And he finds Simon Anders and 3 other men who aren't really all that important to the overall thing. And he sends them off to Paris or France, the countryside of France, to investigate a strange castle where once a year people go missing at this castle. So anyway, the long and tall of it is they go over. The 3 men who are with Anders are not as responsible as he is. He's a very upright officer. He decides to follow through and do the research in the evening. The other 3 men are kind of more interested in having an old drink, an old bevy, an old chillaxing moment, you know? Because remember, this is at a time when the BPRD isn't established, so it seems like hooey.
Yeah, it's just a gang of lads.
You know, it's just a gang of lads, and they don't really believe in all this occult stuff. The professor has sent them, but they haven't seen any proof yet. So Anders, unfortunately, goes to the L library, and then he is lured away from the library by a sexy French lady.
Book. Oh, a sexy French lady.
By a sexy French lady.
Ben, that's happened to you.
That's happened to me several times, Michael. But we won't get into that here. That is reserved for Ben's new spin-off podcast, Tales from the Benverse.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's it's on at 1 a.m. It'll be released at 1 a.m. now and then. You can listen in for all kinds of antics. Usually it's just me wondering how my life got to this point. Really.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark stuff. All around, pretty dark stuff.
They say Christmas is the most depressing time.
Christmas is the most depressing time when you take stock. That's actually not true.
No, that's true.
It's true about Christmas. It's not true about me.
No, but it's not true about Christmas either. Apparently, you're going to spill that water.
You have your microphone in the wrong setting.
Do I?
He is then kidnapped by two sisters called, and I have the name written down here, the Brezhnev sisters.
Right.
And the Brezhnev sisters introduce us to the world of vampires in BPRD. And it's really a very interesting thing. We're introduced to all the famous vampires in the Hellboy verse, and it turns out that vampires have a pact.
Go on.
Vampires have agreed to kind of fade from the world of men until people forget them. So they intentionally want to become myths.
Right.
They want to become something that you can't fight properly, because men figured out how to kill them properly, and they don't want that. So they've agreed to do this. That being said,
right,
one of these vampires has been snaking around.
A snaky vampire.
A snaky vampire.
Simon Anders.
One of the highlights. No, not Simon Anders. Simon Anders is still human at this point, remember.
Okay.
He's snaking around and he's murdering
women.
Trains full of prisoners of war from both sides and Jewish people being escorted from different camps. Because remember, all this stuff was being closed down in 1947. Yeah. And he's murdering vast trains of people being transported to different places.
Because it's a good time, they'll disappear.
Yeah, but he also wants to send a message to humans that they're still powerful.
Oh.
So this is all happening. It's all very interesting. It's all lovely stuff. And Simon Anders, unfortunately, rumbles all this, and then he goes missing. And Professor Brutenholm is so guilty about this that he sends the lads out to find him. And one of the wonderful things about this comic is you really feel the horror of this, because all four men have PTSD in some form.
Right.
Which is touched on here and there when they're in different situations. And two of the men die horribly. They go to investigate the castle to try and find Anders. And it turns out that they get eaten alive by other vampires. And it's kind of horrific. They let you see the whole thing. It's very, very strange. Very, very gripping. Anyway, Simon Anders is then transformed through his experience. As time goes on, he's exorcised. They get rid of the vampires. They kind of lock them away in a chamber in his body somewhere. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. However, he can't fight it back. And then in the next volume, 1948... we kind of look at a man torn apart by his savage kind of vampire side, which doesn't manifest. He doesn't have any powers because he's locked all this away. They exist. And then he eventually succumbs by the end of 1948. And then he decides in the vampire series to go after these vampires and get revenge on the people that made him into a vampire. Exactly. However, in doing so, he kind of exercises the vampire part, but becomes kind of like an emissary for Hecate. Hecate. She is the goddess of magic in the Hellboy universe, and he kind of becomes her emissary, and this is what you're seeing here. He's been sent on a mission. So what the second short story in that anthology is, leading back to what we were originally talking about, what that's for is it's a teaser for a continuation of the Simon Anders trilogy.
Oh,
and he's going to be coming back. He's going to be. It's an important thing. The other one is a light-hearted, fun look at Lobster Johnson.
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter.
We all know him. Yeah,
Lobster Johnson.
That was the easiest part. Lobster Johnson, who we thought was a comic book character, but turned out to be real.
Turned out to be bloody real. Hunting Nazis.
Have you noticed, Bennett, that last week you, I think, influenced social media quite a lot, because since you had a little is the wrong word, since you had an extended rant about it, YouTube Rewind has continued to resonate poorly with the internet community.
Yep, say what you will, Michael, but I am an influencer. Anyone who wants to sponsor the podcast can do so at the link below.
Ben can turn the public against almost anything.
Almost anything, by liking it, usually. If I like it, everyone else is against it. YouTube Rewind is now the most disliked video in YouTube history. Yeah. If that is not a clear, easy message from a viewership to change something, I don't think YouTube will listen. They won't listen.
It's the culture wars, Ben.
But They feckin' should. That's a pretty heavy message to have sent in one way. Yeah.
Remember, Ben, that however many people dislike it, that means they watched it.
Yeah, and so they won't change the model. Yeah,
and
I know.
If they watch it, that's ad revenue.
I know.
We'll take those dislikes just as much as we'll take those likes.
All about them clicks.
Benjamin. Being the first
Smooth.
week, being the first week of December, Ben.
Yeah.
The CW shows.
This is the second week of December.
Yeah, but last week was the first week of December. The CW shows, the Flarrowverse, if you will, had their annual crossover.
Boo.
Ben, it was quite good.
Boo.
No, it was quite good though.
Boo.
It wasn't the Legends of Tomorrow weren't involved this year, but we did get to meet our first Bat family character in the Flowerverse because we had Kate Kane, Batwoman. Look, Ruby Rose isn't a great actress.
She's not. This is she plays the same. We've covered this before, Michael.
Yeah.
I need a badass lady with a cool look who maybe looks like she could beat me up.
Yeah,
and that's Ruby Rose.
The thing is about that the Arrowverse has already a lot of cool lesbian ladies who could beat you up.
Bisexuals.
Well, I mean,
very careful, Michael.
No, well, they've leaned away from Sarah Lance, White Canary. They've leaned away from her being a bisexual. I think she's just a full lesbian now in the Legends of Tomorrow. But there are a lot of similarities between those characters. They're essentially normal humans trained. Yeah, very interesting.
Didn't need it.
Look,
what you're saying.
The interesting thing about the Flowerverse crossover is that Kate Kane, Batwoman, wasn't one of the highlights. It was just quite entertaining.
Oh, good.
It was called Elseworlds, Ben.
Yes, after the famous DC line of comics, it was basically DC's version of What Ifs by Marvel.
Yes, but it shouldn't really have been called that. It should have been called Identity Crisis, because the real thing about it was people swapping lives. There were no what ifs, really. It's people's lives were swapped.
Well, I think I can tell you why it wasn't called Identity Crisis.
Well, I could too, but you do it.
Okay, fair enough. Identity Crisis is a famous kind of... They tried to make it a universe event in the DC universe, and quite frankly, it is one of the most poorly written, controversial storylines that I have ever come across. It involves a lot of raping.
There's quite a bit of raping, yeah.
There's quite a bit of raping. There's quite a bit of fridging. Yeah. Abusing of characters in general, intentional edgelording at an all-time high. Let's take a character that's traditionally very wholesome and just fucking wreck his life for the sake of story.
Yeah,
it didn't sit well with fans. It didn't sit well with other creators, and quite frankly, it has been relegated to the back room of DC Comics history.
Great name, though.
Great name.
And actually, Identity Crisis would have been more fitting as a name for the Arrowverse crossover this year than it was for the comic that it was the name of.
Yes, it was a terrible bloody series of things.
But yeah, it was quite a good crossover. It turned into a several hour kind of making fun of Green Arrow for being
too serious
and too grim and too moany, and it was altogether very good. There's a 2 Superman fight.
Ooh.
I'll
take that.
Smallville Easter eggs, which were very entertaining.
Nice.
It was overall, Ben, a quite enjoyable 3 hours.
Should I watch it?
Look. Oh, sorry. It's what's wrong with me?
Michael's dying.
Look, I've had a hard week. It's a very entertaining. It probably pans out about 40 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it's a bit longer than a movie. But it's not like a movie quality thing.
It's a crossover event.
It's a crossover event on a TV show.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I also watched the episode of Legends of Tomorrow, and the only reference to it was the ship's computer saying, "You have received a call from Oliver Queen, Barry Allen, and Cara Danvers." And one of the characters says, "Sounds like the annual crossover."
Oh, nice.
That was the only little bit. But look, it was fun. It was pretty good. Batwoman wasn't the highlight.
I hope not. I should hope not.
I don't know if she has the charisma to maintain a series on her own.
I hope not.
But it might mean that we finally see a Batman. Although, is Batman in Titans?
Batman is in Titans. It's not. I don't think it's the Batman. So that moves us swiftly on to Titans very quickly, and we'll touch on it. Titans has remained, Michael, a fucking great series. It's very good, very restrained, a lot less cheesy than the Arrowverse worlds and stuff like that. Some Titans fans are kicking off They don't seem to understand how TV series work. They seem to have forgotten. They're like, oh, I want to see them fight bad guys and be a perfect team. It's like, well, they've only just met, so I'm sure the Titans as we know them are coming next series. It's going to be a season 2 reveal. Just get over it, lads. Suck it up. But the big finale coming up this week is Robin versus Batman.
Oh.
Robin has been pushed towards Nightwing territory the whole series. He's going to be Nightwing in season 2 or middle of season 2. There's going to be a big change. And now we've caught glimpses of the cowl of Batman being Batman in kind of traditional Chris Nolan, where are you kind of territory. And he's only gone on a murdering spree. Michael. We've been introduced to Jason Todd, who is in a wheelchair for whatever reason. But I reckon, and we're not going to put money on it, I reckon it's actually Jason Todd who isn't in a wheelchair, and he's running around in a suit that makes him taller, and he's going around murdering the police officers.
And that's who the Batman
is. The criminals.
Is. Oh, very good.
So I think it's that. I don't think we're going to see Batman.
So it's basically the Red Hood, but it's Batman instead of the Red Hood.
I think so. Well, that's traditional. In Battle for the Cowl, Jason Todd took on the mantle of Batman with machine guns.
What? No, it's not the Red Hood. That's a Marvel character.
No, Red Hood is... No, you're absolutely correct. Red Hood is a DC character.
But he wears a kind of bobblehead, not a hood.
Yeah, well, he took that from the Joker. The Joker was originally the Red Hood, then dropped in a vat. Then after he was murdered, he kind of took it in a kind of reclaiming of it. And then for some reason, Marvel decided to add a character in a cloak called the Red Hood.
Yeah.
For some bizarre reason.
No, he's just the Hood.
And the Red Hood remains, in the DC Red Hood, remains a very popular character in the DC universe. I have no doubt that he will appear in the next season of Titans as well. You're going to see a lot of this. It's a great series. They don't rush anything, Michael, which I really like. They're not pushing any agenda here, because it's their own streaming service and they just don't care. They just don't care. So it's nice. It's nice to see. I'm looking forward to seeing it in all its glory when it comes out. I've really been enjoying Titans. Anyway, Michael.
Ben. This week we also had the last great, I was going to say the great white hope, but the great Polynesian hope of the DC universe.
Dodgy territory there, Michael.
Aquaman.
Aquadude.
Ben, let's play our traditional game. Has Ben even seen it?
No.
Very good. Excellent. Ben, it's quite good.
Is it?
It's interesting in so much as 3 films came out this week, as we discussed earlier: Aquaman, Bumblebee, and Into the Spider-Verse, and they're all about exactly the same level of good. So we've been led to believe.
Higher than mediocre?
Much better than mediocre. Is it a categorically good film, Ben?
I don't know.
No, it isn't. That was a rhetorical question. It's not a categorically good film. I went to see it with our good friend Shane.
Your good friend.
My good friend
usurper.
Shane. Your arch nemesis.
I'm just joking, by the way, Shane. If you're listening, you're actually all right.
Ben, don't get all. Don't ruin the.
Tis the season, Michael.
No, don't. Let's not get down here. Let's maintain our attack on Shane.
The nemissary.
Yeah, Shane has kindly written a little review that we'll steal from Facebook.
Excellent.
Because
it's
I can't
useful.
remember what he said. But look, special effects are very good.
Excellent.
There's a lot of ladies in costumes that are very impractical. Amber Heard can barely move. In her green wetsuit
thing,
bustier thing, she is all over the place. It's another one of those films where you are looking at it and they've really leaned into the fact that his name is Arthur.
Okay.
And he's the king of Atlantis.
Is it a King Arthur thing?
It's a King Arthur thing. And his mother is very much the Lady of the Lake.
Okay.
And rather than Excalibur, it's Poseidon's trident.
Classic.
And, I mean, it's a King Arthur story.
They're using that framework quite heavily.
It's not even quite heavily. It is a King Arthur story. Imagine a King Arthur story, but if instead of Merlin coming to guide him, it's a sexy red-haired lady.
So she's kind of a Guinevere-Merlin hybrid?
In a way.
Guinevere.
And she even has magical powers.
Gerlin would be better.
Yeah, because she's Merlin, but she's a girl.
Yeah, Gerlin.
Guinevere. She's very attractive.
Amber Heard is a very attractive lady.
Apparently now dating Elon Musk.
Oh.
He has a type.
young, attractive, out of his league if he didn't have money.
Actresses as well. He was married to, what's her name? She was in bloody. Why are we doing celebrity gossip? We do celebrity gossips now.
Too late. We're on the way.
She was in the St. Trinian's series.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
She was in an episode of Doctor Who and she got murdered. I can't remember. She has in it Tamsin something. She has.
Yasmin Tams. No, that's a different person. Ignore me. Anyway, person.
Doesn't matter.
I understand who you're talking about, though.
Yeah, she's a very attractive lady, Amber Heard. And of course, Jason Momoa is a very attractive man.
Very attractive man.
There is a good deal less Momoaing about the place than you would expect from the trailer.
Good.
In the film.
Good.
It is surprising.
A wise decision.
Yeah. Or a waste of Momoa.
Oh, do you think he's too reserved?
No, I don't, actually. But I think they could have... He doesn't have as much fun with it. You know the old saying, just have fun with it. Just riff with it, just feel the energy, just have fun with it.
I do feel like Jason Momoa is possibly the kind of guy where you have to rein that in. You can't say just have fun with it, because then you've got woo.
Yeah, very good. I like that you leaned.
I knew exactly. I knew exactly what would happen.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be. Basically, all the Momoa stuff is in the trailer.
Let's get some Momoa in there.
And other than that, it's a very, very classic King Arthur story.
Okay.
There's an evil brother. I don't know.
There's Mordred in the legend framework. Evil blood. You can call it evil blood.
Yeah.
It's the evil blood trope.
Yeah. So there's
someone in the hero's family is their antagonist or their counterpart.
Yeah. So, and then he has to go and get the thing to become the king. But like I said, I think we said this talking about King Arthur the other day, and we've said it many times talking about things like the Inhumans. Again, as an Irish person, Ben, watching it, any of the Born King stuff...
We'll have less of that monarchy bollocks, thank you very much.
You're all just going, why don't they just have a vote?
Yeah.
Just have a vote.
What's wrong with the Democratic Republic of Atlantis?
Atlantis, exactly. I mean, why does having a special sword that lets you talk to more different types of fish... Why does that make you king?
Is that what it does?
Basically, yeah. And then it's like...
So he speaks fish Mandarin now?
Well, he speaks to fish anyway. You see that in the trailer.
Yeah.
That he's able to do that. But when he... Spoilers, obviously, here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's pretty obvious that he's going to get the trident.
Yeah.
When he gets the trident, he can command all the oceans. But he could pretty much do that anyway. But I don't know. It degenerates into a big CGI brouhaha.
Yeah, fair
at
enough.
the end, which was a little bit disappointing. But it's good.
It's good.
For all the moaning I'm doing about it.
Better or worse than Venom?
Better as a film, better than Venom, for sure.
I'll take that.
Venom felt very much like it came from the 90s.
I recently saw Venom.
Oh.
That's why I bring it up. I think that should be our new standard for better or worse. Perfectly serviceable action film, terrible superhero film, probably one of the worst openings to a film I've ever seen.
I don't remember the opening.
There are 3 prologues.
Are there?
Yeah. So the first prologue that we have is spaceship, lands on Earth, symbiote escapes.
Oh yeah, and goes
villain
to China.
setup.
Yeah.
Second one is Eddie's a good guy reporter, has too many ethics, pushes somebody... Too many ethics. Pushes somebody, loses job, and then we have another fade to black 6 months later thing. That's 2 prologues. That takes 17 minutes out of that film.
Yeah, but Ben, that's what happens when you are adapting a character with as complex a backstory as Venom and changing it.
What complex backstory?
He's a symbiote who's obsessed with Spider-Man, but that's what I'm saying. They had to come up with it from scratch.
You know how you fix that?
Put Spider-Man in it.
Yeah. Don't.
Look, Ben, go see Aquaman. Is it the savior of the DC universe? Absolutely no, definitely not. It's
anti-reboot material.
It's very independent. There's no reference there. I don't think there is even an Easter egg.
We're not shoehorning Justice League in there.
No, I don't. Ben, I don't think there's even an Easter egg. I don't think there are any DC references in it that aren't from Aquaman comics.
Is it pre or post Justice League? This is something I didn't understand.
Post, I think, because he's famous.
Probably that then.
But he wasn't there the kind of thing that he might have been a bit famous anyway among coastal communities. Otherwise, how did Bruce Wayne know about him?
Fair. He was more of a legend, though, in the initial Justice League.
Well, yeah, it also has to be post-Justice League because he has the Quindent from Justice League and he has met Mira before. Mira?
Mera.
I can't remember what way they say it in the film, though.
Doesn't matter. But you recommend it?
I don't know, do I? I enjoyed it. But it wasn't great.
It's completely ambiguous, ladies and gentlemen. Go see it and let us know what you thought down below.
Yeah, look, it's good. Like, it is good, but it's not...
You don't sound sure, Michael.
I'm not, but that's where... Like, I'd probably give it 70% if I was a 90s magazine.
Oh, okay. That's high 90s praise.
You see what I'm saying?
It's low upper 90s praise, but it's 90s praise.
It's good. Amber Heard's very attractive.
And that's the last word on that one, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Michael and Benjamin try and figure out whether they like stuff.
Speaking of whether or not we like stuff, Ben, I also saw the ultimate... No, it's not what it's called. What's it called? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, the animated series from Sony's animation network. Not animated series, sorry, the animated feature.
Yes, Ben, let's play our famous game. Has Ben even seen it already?
I haven't. I was stuck on a plane all day yesterday, Michael. I'm knackered. I'm tired. I do, as you know, I'm a huge animation fan and would very much like to see Into the Spider-Verse.
Look, it's pretty good. Shall we do a little...
Is Amber Heard in it?
No, Amber Heard isn't in it.
We've lost it.
Haley Steinfeld is in it. And she's also in Bumblebee.
I don't find Haley Steinfeld attractive in any way.
That's irrelevant, Ben. She's doing a cartoon voice.
I don't find Haley Steinfeld attractive in any way, and I would just like it on record.
All right, that's fair enough. That's nothing to do with the film at all.
Her voice is unattractive too.
No, it's not. It's very good. She does a good...
She's a good voice actor?
One of the criticisms you could have about the film Into the Spider-Verse is that Spider-Woman or Spider-Gwen...
Spider-Gwen.
No. She was called Spider-Gwen in the trailers, but she's called Spider-Woman in the film. She's called Ghost Spider in the comics now, which is a terrible name.
That's a terrible name.
One of the worst names.
Terrible name.
One of the worst names.
One of the worst names. Yeah,
no, Ghost Spider. But she's not in the Into the Spider-Verse movie as much as you might think.
As you are led to believe from the trailer.
From the trailer. Actually, no, that's wrong. She is in it that much, but she's not very important.
Okay, she's not a key figure.
No, she's one step above the three other Spider-Men. Let's do a very quick summary of the film, Ben.
Sure. Go ahead.
Spider-Man, played by Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. This is Earth 616. No, this is Miles Morales' original Spider-Man.
Miles Morales' universe Spider-Man. He dies, saving the world.
Yeah, classic.
And he kind of passes the torch to Miles Morales.
Good man.
But he dies destroying a machine that cracks open universes to bring people from other universes into his universe.
I see.
Created by the Kingpin. Because his wife, Vanessa,
V-Dog.
My Vanessa, has died.
Oh.
So anyway.
So he thinks getting another one from another. That's
exactly.
Some very Rick and Morty logic.
Right? It's good. I like it. So one of the byproducts of this fight is that Spider-Man's head goes into the beam.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that kind of summons alternate Spider-Men from other dimensions.
Uses a DNA strand.
Kinda, yeah. So all the other Spider-Mens end up there. And the first Spider-Man that Miles meets is schlubby 36-year-old tracksuit bottom wearing. That's why I'm dressed like this.
You dressed like that on purpose.
Yeah, this is a homage.
Nice try.
No, I did. I genuinely did.
Nice
he wears grey tracksuit bottoms throughout the whole...
and you're telling me this isn't just Sunday.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, he meets Schlubby Peterman. Schlubby Peterman, played by Jake Johnson. Jake Johnson, is that his name?
I think it is Jake Johnson from New Girl.
New Girl and Jurassic World for some reason.
Yeah, he's Nick from New Girl.
Yeah.
He's I quite enjoy him in anything he's in.
He's humorous.
I enjoy his personality, and I thought it was kind of inspired to cast him as a schlubby, kind of washed up Spider-Man.
One of the things that the trailers didn't do very well was show us that he is an alternate Spider-Man.
Yeah, because it seemed for a second that he wasn't. It seemed like that was the Spider-Man who died. And I thought we had a Megamind situation where he decided to retire.
No, it turns out that he is one of the alternate dimension Spider-Men.
Are they aware that they've been transported out of their... Okay.
Absolutely. They're 100% aware. And that's one of the gags. One of the best gags in it is Spider-Man telling his origin story. So Chris Pine does it first. He says, you've all heard this before, so let's do it briefly. And Chris Pine's Spider-Man tells his life story in a little vignette, which includes stuff from the Tobey Maguire films.
Sure.
And he's the real successful...
He's 616 Spider-Man.
Prime of his life Spider-Man. And then we see, when the new one arrives, it's like, okay, let's go over this one last time. And it's how his life went wrong, and he's all schlubby, and Mary Jane leaves him, and he lives on his own, and he's getting a bit fat, and it's pretty funny. But it also sucks... A lot of people get sucked off their plane of existence in this film.
Michael, that was a terrible pause. I just thought it was like, oh no, Michael, you didn't say Into Spider-Verse. You saw the porn parody.
Several other Spider-Man get sucked
into the verse.
Their plane of existence.
Jesus.
The highlight
Sucking off Spider-Man is now officially
no, we're not. No, it isn't. I can't put that on YouTube.
We're leaning into it.
So all the other Spider-Mans come across and they do a team up, basically.
Yay, classic team up. I only realised today, while researching this, that Nicolas Cage is bloody Noir Spider-Man.
Nicolas Cage is Noir Spider-Man, and it is inspired casting. He only probably has in the region of 10 lines.
That's all you need from Nick Cage.
But he nails it. And in fact, Ben, do you remember Ultimate Spider-Man, the cartoon series from 2015, 16, 17?
Yeah.
They did a very similar Spider-Verse concept. And I watched that in preparation for this episode. And the greatest disappointment was that when it got to the Spider-Man Noir, the 1940s detective
version of Spider-Man,
that it wasn't Nicolas Cage's voice. It was such a sublime bit of casting.
Yeah, it's just a really nice touch. I just realised it halfway through. There's some great casting and choices in that in general. John Mulaney as Spider-Pig is hilarious.
Spider-Ham,
sorry. John Mulaney is a comedian. For anyone who doesn't know, he wrote for SNL for years and has his own stand-up specials. He is a hilarious man and a very distinct voice, and it was great to see him in the trailer as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. But Michael, what we've decided to do today is take a look at where all this came from. As you so aptly mentioned, there was an original crossover from the animated series, the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, and I suppose that was maybe a beta run or a test to see if it would work.
I don't think it was. I think that might have been done and dusted before this even came about.
Do you reckon this is Sony's attempt to just really consolidate their hold on that character?
In a sense, possibly.
It seems to have worked, because Venom 2 is currently in production. And Into the Spider-Verse has been quite successful. I don't have figures, but I do know it's doing well.
You get talking there. And
but it's interesting to see them kind of do that. But we're not here to talk about that. We've talked about Sony's clinging to the rights of Spider-Man for quite a while in other episodes. Today we're going to take a look at Into the Spider-Verse and where that all kinds of come from. So where I think the idea of multiple dimension Spider-Mans came from originally is the PS4 game Shattered Dimensions. Did you ever see this? I hazard a guess. Now,
go on.
Saying that, you have to go even further back to Spider-Man the Animated Series, which we are both a fan of. Our favourite Venom origin.
Big fan, yeah.
Yeah, our favourite Venom origin. They did a very similar concept where he met Spider-Mans from other dimensions. Madam Web.
They did?
Yeah, Madam Web did that. And interestingly, Madam Web was voiced by Stan Lee's late wife.
Oh,
the late Stan Lee's late wife.
She was a bit of a sexy older lady.
She was a cougar. Madam Cougar, they should have called her. But that name was already taken by several porn networks for a series.
My favourite thing in that was when one of the Spider-Men that he met was the actor who played Spider-Man on TV. Yeah. That was amazing.
Yeah. Very interestingly, Madam Web is kind of his occult, otherworldly advisor in his career. He meets Madam Web at a time in his life when he needs a bit of guidance, and Madam Web comes along and marks him out. Again, interestingly that you mentioned Chris Pine, so Spider-Man in this one. I would say the closest relative to that, prior to that, would be the animated series one. He is noted as probably the best of Spider-Man. He's kind of the paragon, the ultimate version. Not the ultimate version. I can't use that word here.
No, because there is an ultimate version.
The prime example of what Spider-Man should be. So it's interesting to see that. Then the game came out where you could play as those different characters, and that's where Noir Spider-Man was kind of dug up from again. Coming back to Noir Spider-Man, in 2000 and... I'm definitely going to get this wrong, but I have it down here.
Go on.
In 2009, Marvel tried out a series of little pulp titles called the Marvel Noir series.
Yeah.
Became very, very successful. You had X-Men Noir, you had Spider-Man Noir, you had... I think Doctor Strange noir, and there was another one, but I can't for the life of me remember. But they were black and white comics in a heavy shadow style to mimic noir movies, and it was a look at your favorite heroes from different perspectives. Some were done very differently from others. For example, the X-Men were not mutants. They were a series of con men that had very good talents.
Right.
So one was an acrobat, and that was Beast. The other was an expert marksman, and that was Cyclops.
Like Ocean's 11.
Very similar to that. It run very similar to that. It was interesting to see that. On the other hand, Spider-Man Noir was a bloody Spider-Man. He was a Spider-Man. He had full powers,
In the olden
organic
days.
webbing. And when you played that video game, Shattered Dimensions, you could play the stealth sections were Spider-Man Noir. So
Right.
you would run around a black and white world as Spider-Man Noir, and it was one of the best sections in the entire game. I really enjoyed that game. It's one of the few video games I've played to completion. I thought we were leaning into these jokes now. Apparently we are.
One of the best gags in Into the Spider-Verse is that Spider-Man Noir can't see colours.
Ah!
So he comes to the real world and they give him a Rubik's Cube. And
he can't do it.
Torments him.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, that's interesting. So it's interesting to see that character. I think you hit upon it earlier. Spider-Gwen is one of the more interesting characters of recent years in Spider-Man lore. Spider-Gwen was introduced she's been introduced about 5 years ago. She got her own series in 2016, Spider-Gwen. Her origin story is a little bit different.
One of the most popular cosplays in the world.
Because it's very cool. It's a
cool-
great design.
it's a very good
to
costume.
be fair. Between her and Miles Morales for Spider costumes, I think
They've got it
two of
covered.
the best cool looks that I have seen. Spider-Gwen is fascinating because she is Gwen Stacy. Obviously, that's where the name comes from. She survives. More importantly, she loses Peter Parker in her world. And that's what inspires her to become a better version of the Spider-Woman. I refuse to call her Ghost Spider. I'm not doing that.
She's called Spider-Woman in the movie.
So Spider-Woman, it's interesting that she was introduced in this. I think this was a real kind of push towards Sony saying, we have all the rights.
Except Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. So they used everybody else.
Yeah.
But she's a fascinating character. Very well written. I can't remember who writes her because I'm a terrible co-host. Very well written series. She is on her second volume now. And it's just following her life. Her father is still alive. So, interestingly, Miles Morales' father is a police officer. So is Gwen Stacy's in her world.
Oh, yeah.
And the tension of that relationship is very present in each one. Interestingly, Peter Parker dies by taking the lizard formula, transforming into a big lizard and then dying.
And she beats him.
She beats him, yeah. She tries to save him. He wants to become a lizard because he wants to be a hero like her. So she's Spider-Man before Peter Parker dies.
Spider-Woman.
But he becomes the Uncle Ben to her universe.
Makes a good rice.
He's the great rice. He's quite good with a wok.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of motivator
Don't
there.
like his sweet and sour. Too sweet.
Usually his jarred sauces are not the best. The rice does just fine.
Yeah.
The jarred sauces are a little too sweet in general. But after his failing career as a sweet and sour salesman, he turns himself into the lizard and he dies. And that's where Spider-Gwen comes from. She's a huge fan favourite, obviously, because, first of all, in the cosplaying world, she is huge. If Nike did superheroes, it would be Spider-Gwen.
It's a great design.
It's great design. It's smooth. It's slick. I'm not sure if it was Sarah Pichelli.
I don't know who did it.
Sarah Pichelli is the co-creator of Miles Morales with Brian Michael Bendis. And Miles Morales, I think, has the closest story to his comic book origins, where he takes over when the Ultimate Spider-Man dies. The Ultimate Spider-Man dies defending his aunt against the Sinister Six in his universe. He saves Mary Jane, he saves Aunt May, but perishes after winning the day. And then Miles Morales came along. Miles Morales, if you're looking for a focal point of comic book fan hatred, I suppose Miles Morales might be the best example.
Oh, really?
Miles Morales was that early wave of people saying that
Robbie Rodriguez
is the co-creator of
Spider-Gwen.
Yeah. Who drew?
Robbie Rodriguez.
Who wrote her?
Bloody Jason Latour.
Jason Latour, okay. Huge guy for alternate timelines. He's also responsible for Old Man Logan.
That is French for Jason the Tour.
Jason the Tour. He takes on a tour of different dimensions in the Marvel Universe.
Very good.
Boom. Anyway, Miles Morales was initially hated in the Ultimate Universe because the Ultimate Spider-Man, for many fans, was a return to a pure Spider-Man.
Yeah, it was very good.
Excellent run by Brian Michael Bendis. Kind of cemented Brian Michael Bendis' status as one of the greatest comic book writers of all time. The Ultimate Universe was... you don't agree?
No, I do.
Oh, right, sorry.
It's controversial.
The Marvel Ultimate Universe was a return to form for many comics, a nice way of retelling, but keeping the core essence of a lot of characters solid. It was a masterstroke for Marvel.
With modern art.
You know,
and
everything was...
modern sensibilities.
Everything was clean.
Also,
tidy.
There was, in the 60s, there was a hint of scattershot stuff. They weren't trying to create lasting comics, but you never knew what was going to stick. So, for example, Spider-Man's origin, it's one issue in the original. It's less than one issue. It's told, and then there's a tale of what he does after.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Ultimate Marvel, it's 7 or 8 issues.
Yeah, it follows through. It's an arc.
Yeah.
It's an arc.
But because they knew what was good and what was bad. Although when they started to mess around with it, that's when they started losing people.
Yeah.
People didn't like them changing Venom.
Venom should not have changed. That was messy.
People didn't like them changing the Green Goblin.
The big monster. Yeah, so liberties were taken, shall we say.
But they had to be, otherwise it was just a slower retelling.
Yeah, and there was no point in that either. Green Goblin was transformed from a man with enhanced strength and durability who wears a costume to a huge kind of demonic...
Goblin. Yeah, he looked like the gargoyles from Disney's Gargoyles.
Yeah, actually, nail on the head. A big, green, grumpy gargoyle.
Yeah, he could breathe fire.
And it was interesting to see a lot of that. Hugely popular character. Then we got rid of him. He died.
Miles Morales?
No. Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe. Ultimate Universe, Peter Parker kicked the bucket, saving his... And it was, in many ways, Brian Michael Bendis did a clean run. They finished him up in a nice way. It was a good, long run. It ended where it should have ended. And then Miles Morales appeared. And most fans didn't know what to make of him. Now, it should be pointed out... This is going to get us into murky territory.
It's going to get you into murky territory.
It always gets me into murky territory. I'm a huge fan of Miles Morales.
Right.
I think he's a great modern take on a classic character.
Right.
I don't see anything wrong with including extra Spider-Man.
Right.
I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Here we go. But...
the fan community did have an issue with that. Lots of people kicked off at the fact that, first of all, barring race... gender, creed, sexual preference, anything like that. What they really hated was that they were replacing Spider-Man. Before anybody found out he was black or Latino or anything like that, they hated the fact that there was another Spider-Man. It didn't make sense. Not to mention the fact...
there was already Miguel O'Hara and Ben...
Not a clone of Peter Parker, though. This was a different person in the Spider-Man mantle.
Miguel O'Hara's a different person, isn't he? But he's from the future.
Miguel O'Hara is in the lineage of
Peter
Spider-Man.
Parker, is he?
He's also in the future. He's 2099 Spider-Man. He doesn't.
But May Parker didn't Mayday Parker
Yeah, but she dropped in and out of existence in other dimensions. Okay. It wasn't a thing. This was in the. Remember, once upon a time, people were either Ultimate fans or Marvel fans.
No, I disagree.
No, there wasn't that divide at one point.
I read both.
I said some people.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. Okay, sorry. I should have said some people were either Ultimate or original. Okay. You know, it was how you liked your secret sauce.
Yeah, where'd you want your eggs?
Anyway. That was initially what grinded gears, and then he took his mask off in a big reveal, and it turns out that Miles Morales is half African American, half Latino. Or half black, half Latino.
Yeah.
This was like the spark to a keg, a Tinder keg, a powder keg? Powder keg. Spark to a powder keg. Oh,
obsessed with Tinder.
Smooth. Love Tinder. If my good lady friend is listening, no I don't. Sorry. I apologise. So, the community kicked off. It's like, you can't have a black Spider-Man. And then on the other side of that, you had people who had been crying out for representation in comics, saying thank you very, very much. He has survived all of that in a way that many of the new characters have not.
Yeah, basically him and Black Nick Fury.
Yeah. huge fans across the board. He has won people over in a massive way, and I think he is, in many ways, a perfect person to lead the Into the Spider-Verse film, because it ticks all the boxes for representation. Not that representation should be a box-ticking exercise.
No, but hold on a second. That's a good point, because that is the ultimate difference between Ultimate Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and the Into the Spider-Verse movie.
Do go on.
In the Ultimate Spider-Man comic, the cartoon version, it's still very much a Peter Parker story. So we follow the main Peter Parker, and he goes and picks up Miles Morales and Spider-Woman, not Spider-Gwen though, Spider-Woman, it was before Spider-Gwen, Spider-Knight, Spider-Man Noir, and he picks them all up, but he's still the hero.
Yeah, okay.
That's the huge difference between this and the movie
The animated series and the Into the Spider-Verse,
where it's
the
Miles
Sony
Morales
thing. I think it's a good choice. I think it's a clean take. I think it's politically relevant in a lot of ways. Remember, Miles Morales existed before the Black Lives Matter movement or anything like that. He predates that. But now it seems like a useful opportunity to talk about things like that in that universe. I don't know how they handle that because I haven't seen it, so I can't say that with full authority.
It's very not talked about in the film, which I think is good.
I think that's probably a smarter way to handle it, I suppose.
It's just, here he is, he's half black, half Latino. They never say it.
Let's not preach.
It's just, there he is, he's who he is, and he's Spider-Man, deal with it. It's good, it's a good film.
Okay.
It gave me a bit of a headache. The art style is unusual.
It's hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
I kind of love it from the trailers, but I don't know how it is in feature length.
There's a lot of blurred backgrounds that made me think I'd accidentally walked into a 3D screening. And I was like, oh, this is giving me a headache. And there's a lot of flashing. If you are one of those epilepsy people, you want to stay the hell away from this.
Heck away from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
And the denouement, the final battle, is just... If the whole film wasn't CGI, it would be a CGI mess. But it's still a CGI mess.
Mess.
It has to be. It's the end of a superhero film.
Yeah, you need the crack-a-boom. Anyway, that's it from us for this week, ladies and gentlemen. What did you see any of the blockbusters mentioned below? What did you think of them? How do you feel about Miles Morales as Spider-Man? Are you a hardcore Spider-Man fan? What do you think of it? Actually, one that I wanted to ask you is, do you have any favourite costume redesigns or designs from the last couple of years? Because before we started this episode, Michael was showing me one of his 90s Wolverines in yellow spandex with blue shoulder pads, blue gloves and blue boots. My favourite Wolverine design is that very one.
Yeah.
We would like to know what you think of costumes and redesigns. Do you have any favourite heroes, and do you have any favourite costumes from that era? We would love to know. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we are on iTunes, we are on YouTube, we are on Instagram, and you can get in touch with us from all of those. We are on SoundCloud, and we soon hope to be on Spotify. Do let us know what you fancy in the Christmas episode. As always, we are pushing our annual Mickey Awards.
Yeah, that's next week.
If you want someone you know to get a good Mickey, let us know. We want bad eggs, we want good eggs, we want series of the year, we want movie of the year,
comic books.
We want comic book series of the year, we want art styles of the year. Just give us a category, give us someone you'll vote for. We're going to do polls during this week on Instagram, so stay tuned.
That's good
and vote in the polls.
Yeah,
all right, ladies and gentlemen. So that's it from us for this week. Bye.
Bye. That's enough. Stop it.